So hydroelectricity is electricity generated by the kinetic energy of moving water. It's the second most common form of renewable energy, and 7% of U.S. electricity is generated by hydroelectricity. 50% of that from the U.S. is done in Washington, California, and Oregon. One of the examples is run of the river. Water is retained behind a low dam. You can see that up at the top there. And it runs through a channel, which is this pipeline here, before returning to the river. Some of the advantages to this is that there's no reservoir, there's low environmental impact, it doesn't disrupt the seasonal water flow, and some of the disadvantages are it can be intermittent and it cannot work in low water. But this essentially, water is diverted, a small amount is diverted to turn a turbine in the powerhouse, but then it's re-put back in the stream. How does it work, hydroelectric power? Well, the plant captures that kinetic energy of water and uses it to turn a turbine, which generates electricity. That energy depends on the flow rate or the vertical distance the water falls. The bigger the distance, the more potential it has. Again, we're always trying to turn this turbine, and so it is based on that flow rate. Is it sustainable? It's expensive to build. Benefits is it generates quite a bit of energy. There's no pollution or waste or carbon dioxide. But the downsides are you do have that reservoir. It changes the river flow downstream. The fossil fuels are used during construction. Siltation, there's a lot of silt that's built up back behind. There's floodlands behind. It can hold heat. So that water can trap a lot of heat in it, and they'll have less oxygen because it's not flowing. It can alter the dynamics of that stream. We might need things like fish ladders, things like that all factor into hydroelectricity. If we want to move into solar heating, we can have passive solar heating versus active solar heating. So passive solar heating we spoke about earlier. It's capturing the energy of sunlight without the use of mechanical devices. Now we want to address more of this active solar heating, where we're capturing the energy of sunlight with the use of technologies, things like small-scale water heating systems. Some of these examples are small-scale solar water heating system with something like heating a swimming pool heater or in a home. So a small amount of water is pumped up to a roof, allowed to warm, and then re-emitted back in the pool or used as a water heater. This is also different from photovoltaic cells. Those capture energy as light and convert it directly to electricity. So there's no turbines involved here. We're using certain semiconductors to generate a low voltage of current when they're exposed to direct sunlight. It can be used to charge a battery to use that energy later, or it can send that electricity right back to the grid. And then we have something called concentrating solar thermal electricity generation. This is also referred to as CST. It's using lenses or mirrors to focus sunlight to then evaporate water to make steam, and that steam is used to, you guessed it, turn a turbine. Advantages of this is you're generating hot water or electricity without pollution, and typically you're producing this when peak demand is, because you have full sunlight, and full sunlight usually correlates with peak demand. Disadvantages is it's very expensive to make and install. The energy and the water, and it needs some toxic metals to build this. But with increased use, you can also have increased benefits. We're going to look at geothermal energy. So geothermal energy is heat from normal radioactive decay of elements deep in the earth. Things that bring that hot magma to surfaces. It can be used directly as a source of heat, or we can send cool water down to be heated. Iceland heats 87% of its homes this way. It can also be used to generate electricity, but the water evaporated, if we're taking water that's been evaporated from the Earth's internal heat, is used to turn the turbine. So if we're pulling up this steam and hot water, you can see in the red there, it can be sustainable as long as we don't harvest more groundwater than we are replacing back. If we are depleting those aquifers of water, it's going to become unsustainable. And this is something that's not easily accessible everywhere. You need to have places where this geothermal activity is taking place. A ground source heat pump is not true geothermal. It's more solar, but it takes advantage that the ground retains ambient heat better than the air, so it holds that heat in and doesn't cool as quickly. If we take cool water and we send it down into the ground, which is able to hold on to that heat, it'll transfer some of that heat back to the water, and then we can pump it back up and use it. So again, it's not true geothermal where we're using that radioactive decay, and it is more available everywhere. But we think of it very similarly because we're using the Earth's internal heat. And then we look to wind energy. Wind energy is due to the unequal heating of Earth's surface by the sun. The U.S. has the largest wind generating capacity, but it's still less than 1% of our electricity. A wind turbine converts kinetic energy of moving air, just like we did with hydroelectric, and so that was moving water, into electricity. Offshore winds that are just off the shore, are better, and the turbines can be bigger there. Some of the advantages, it's non-depletable. It's not going anywhere whether we use it or not. It's clean. It's free. There's no pollution, no greenhouse gases, and it can share the land. If we have wind turbines on land, we can also graze cattle underneath. Disadvantages is they do have a significant amount of noise. Many people think they look ugly, but equally many people think they look pleasing. There's sort of this visual aspect of it, whether you run it offshore. There's bird and bat deaths that deal with it. It's estimated that 40,000 birds die annually by flying into wind turbines. And then looking into the future, hydrogen fuel cells have many potential applications. So a fuel cell is a device that operates much like a common battery, but unlike a conventional battery that dies, reactants are added continuously to the cell. The basic process forces protons from hydrogen through a membrane while electrons take a different path, which leads to a current. You can see the equation there, hydrogen plus oxygen. Our product is water, but where are we getting this hydrogen from? Free hydrogen gas is very rare, so we're looking at some of these disadvantages, that there's not free hydrogen gas. It's explosive. And currently, the best way that we can produce hydrogen gas is from natural gas, which is not sustainable. Electrolysis, which is splitting water, is a better option. It takes a lot of energy to split the water, so we have to have the right amount of return. Advantages is that it's 80% efficient. The only byproduct is water, and so if we have a hydrogen-fueled car, it has an electric motor, which is much more efficient than an internal combustion engine. So already we have 80% efficiency with the fuel, and it's using a much more efficient motor. So it would really up the efficiency of transportation. This is a great diagram in your book that goes over all of the different energy sources. It gives the advantages, it gives the disadvantages, it gives the emissions, it gives the cost per kilowatt hour, and then the EROEI, the energy return on energy investments. If you're going to look at one thing in your textbook to review for this chapter, it would be this diagram. This is the most significant diagram in the book, where it really sums up all of the different things that we've been trying to learn over the course of this chapter. So how do we plan our energy future? 40% of energy used in the United States is used to generate electricity. The United States electrical distribution system is outdated. 5 to 10% of the electricity that we generate is lost just as it's transported. Looking at things like a smart grid or smart thermostat or smart meter, things that can automatically, smart appliances that know when to operate, that know when to run, can help reduce our energy use. Smart grids are, replacing our electrical grid with efficient, self-regulating electricity distribution network that accepts any source of electricity and distributes it automatically. Smart appliances function when demand is low, so they'll charge themselves when demand is low. There's limits to these renewable energy things. There's costs to produce them. There's limitations of energy storage. So as much as we want to move to renewables, we're going to run into some issues with that. So there's no perfect system in terms of our energy usage, in terms of non-renewables and renewables, but there's a lot of options. And as we move into the future and as we move into your lifetime, these are going to be crucial decisions and crucial technology advantages that are really going to impact your life.